to cast our bombs upon the single pier that remained, and upon the sand dunes on which the troops had their only shelter.
The beach itself was just mayhem. It was hell on earth. Hell on earth.
Dunkirk, France. Today, the seaside resort and port town is peaceful, but 75 years ago was the manic, chaotic site of the mass evacuation of the BEF. Over 338,000 men were taken off the beaches, and gunner Garth Wright was one of them. This is his story of Operation Dynamo. On the 10th of May 1940, the forces of the Wehrmacht invaded France through Belgium and the Ardennes forest. Thought impassable, the initial assault by land and air caught the Allied armies completely by surprise. By the 20th of May, the British Admiralty, seeing the unfolding situation, planned for the evacuation of the British Expeditionary Force. By the 21st, the remnants of the BEF and the French were trapped around the port town of Dunkirk. Gunner Garth Wright, 51st Light Anti-Aircraft Regiment, stationed in France, talks about his journey to the beaches.
We couldn't do a thing because the refugees were coming back. Everything was chock-a-block. All the roads were chock-a-block with refugees. I was sent down to headquarters down at Amiens with a truck. I got cut off by the Germans there, and I managed to make my way back. I could, by that time, of course, they'd started homing in on Dunkirk, and you could, at night, you could see your goal. You could see where you wanted to go with Dunkirk. It was just a red glow in the sky. I got up to Dunkirk eventually, picked up the what I could find of the unit, and all the static guns in Dunkirk, they were all taken out. Every one was picked out by a Stuka. It was just like normal target practice to a Stuka. They just dived at the gun pit, using that as a target, release a bomb. All the Beaufort crew could see coming at him was a little thin line, a Stuka, almost impossible to hit, and they could see the bomb leave the plane. I knew damn well that it was curtains for them, and every static pit in Dunkirk was picked out with a direct hit, and all the crew were up on the sandbag surround.
On May 24th, Hitler ordered a halt to the Blitzkrieg. Without any warning, the tanks and infantry halted. Matter still much debate to this day. Different historians and veterans try and give some explanation for Hitler's decision. Historian and battlefield tour guide John Cotterill explains why Hitler gave the infamous halt order.
Given on the 24th of May to stop the Panzers from advancing, and the best assessments we can make are, first of all, Hitler had fought himself in the First World War in the Flanders, in the wet Flanders area, and he knew the wet conditions, and he knew with inundations and flooding it wasn't ideal territory for tanks. Secondly, once the 24th of May had been reached, he realised that the British Expeditionary Force had been defeated, and he wanted therefore to keep his tank force intact to use against the bulk of the French army, which was south of the River Somme. Now, as it turned out, the French army south of the River Somme didn't fight and surrendered extremely rapidly, but Hitler wasn't to know that, and once he realised that we were heading back in retreat, he didn't want to waste tanks and have tanks destroyed, which he would need to take on the bulk of the French army.
The majority of the armed forces deployed by the Germans were regular troops, but embedded within the assault were members of Hitler's Waffen-SS. En route to the beaches, whilst cut off at Amiens, Garth nearly had an encounter with one SS unit.
Got on my truck and went down to ambulance got cut off in the meantime, and I was having a beer on the curbstone, and as soon as every time a British squaddy sat down or stopped, dogs and children used to come around him, like, you know, and this little fella, little French lad, he came over and sat beside me. Didn't say anything, just sat there beside me. I gave him a bar of chocolate from my loot, and I had a bottle of beer and sitting there in the sun and relaxing on the way back for half hour. Suddenly he said, "I'm a man, I'm a man." And the blessed German half-track went along the T-junction, and it was SS boys up there, and they didn't take prisoners, like, you know, so I thought, this is it. So I dropped everything, got into the truck, and took a chance and went where they came from, and started on my way back.
A few miles from the village of Esquelbecq lies a small barn. On the afternoon of the 28th of May, members of the infamous Leibstandarte Adolf Hitler murdered 80 members of the Royal Warwickshire, Cheshire Regiment and the Royal Artillery, as well as a French soldier. Each cross represents one of the fallen servicemen. The farm and field which they were marched across. A few yards away is a pond and a tree. A solitary poppy marks the spot where Captain Lynn Allen was shot in the back of the neck. These men died defending the evacuation on the beaches 15 miles away.
It's a phenomenal amount. Almost everything is the answer. I'll give you the statistics because they make quite interesting reading. We had at the start of the campaign artillery pieces, guns. We had 2,800, and we left behind in Europe 2,500 of them. So we only brought back 300 artillery pieces with which to defend the United Kingdom, and the Germans captured 2,500 artillery pieces. Vehicles, again, quite incredible. We had 69,000 vehicles over in, this is part of the British Expeditionary Force, just the British forces, and we lost 64,000 of them. So we only managed to bring back 5,000 vehicles from 69,000.
Sat in the slit trench for, I should think it must have been about 24 hours. And they called for volunteer stretcher bearers. So I thought, well, anything rather than sit here. I got up out of my trench and along with another fella picked up a young lad on a stretcher. He was in a very bad way. Took him out on what was left of the mole, took him aboard the Codrington, which was a destroyer, and put him down. I turned to go back again to the beach, and the captain kept me on board. I didn't argue with him. And when I got to Woolwich Arsenal, I was given a blanket roll and a bowl of soup or something, and we were told then that if we had anywhere in the London area to go, we could have a 24-hour pass. My older sister's husband's sister lived at Walthamstow, and I went across there, and they opened the door to me and gave me a great welcome, and took me down the local pub, parading me around as if I was some sort of a hero. I felt anything but a hero when I looked around and saw the poor old boys from the First World War with one arm and gassed and things like that, and I felt that I'd run away. Nothing at all I could have done about it, but those were my honest feelings.